Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Haverhill Town Council Planning Working Party. Item number 1, welcome. To note that this working party has no delegated authority and may only make recommendations to full council. Urgent actions may be taken under delegated authority given to the clerk and the chair. Item 2, apologies for absence. Vicky, any apologies?
No, none received.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Requests for dispensation, anyone? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, item 1 on list B it's a friend of mine, so I'll leave the meeting while that's going on.
Okay. Councillor Davison?
Likewise.
Okay, thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No? Okay. Item 4, minutes of the previous meetings, sorry, on the 17th of January. Vicky, can I? Can I have them up, please? Okay. First page. (396), please, Vicky. (397). (398). Neutral on both of them as well.
That's it.
Thank you. Can I have a proposer and a seconder so that I can sign these as a true record, please? Councillor Dave Smith proposed. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Yep, it's carried. Thank you. Item 5, matters arising from those minutes. Is there any matters arising? Anyone want to say anything on them at all? No? Okay. Item 6, which is Andrew Smith, Chief Executive of Haverhill Housing Partnership. Welcome and thank you very much for attending. Scott, are you with Andrew?
Yes, I am.
Yes, yeah.
Right. Welcome to you as well and thank you for attending. Right, it's down to you, Andrew.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting us along. My name is Andrew Smith. I'm the Chief Executive of the Haverhill Housing Partnership and joined by Scott Bailey, my Director of Development and Deputy Chief Executive. I do have a presentation, but I'm not used to sharing on Zoom, so let's give it a go and see if I can make that work.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, excellent, cool. Just a little bit of background. I'm sure you do know about Haverhill Housing Partnership, but just in case. So we were established in 2002, so 20 years old last year. Combination of Haverhill, it's a combination of Haverhill and Bury St Edmunds, so representing our roots. We're a community benefit society, so not for profit. We exist to serve the broader interests of the community, as opposed to a cooperative society which serves the interests of its members. So currently we own and manage over 7,000 homes across 11 local authority areas. And I think something you were particularly interested in was kind of the mix of tenures we have. So social rented housing, which typically has a rent round about 65% of market rent. And then more recently, a more recent product called affordable rented, which is around about 80% of market rent. We also do shared ownership housing, where people buy a share, typically around 30 to 50% of the first tranche sale, and then hopefully over time, staircasing up to full outright ownership. And we're regulated by the regulator of social housing, and we get funding from Homes England. So as you can see, obviously we were a stock transfer. So of course, Haverhill and Bury St Edmunds are heartland, but we do have property as far west as Warboys and East Cambridgeshire, and up towards Norwich and down towards Ipswich, but very, very much our heartland in around Bury and Haverhill, whereas, you know, we have a large number of estates, and you can just see there the transferred property of the little purple houses, and then some more historic development, and then our more recent development, which, as you can see, takes us up the main kind of transport corridors in the region. So in terms of looking more specifically at Haverhill, we've got total stock of 1,737. So affordable rent, which will be our more recent developments and some conversions that we would have done doing a particular grant funding regime. We've got 327 units, but predominantly still social rent at 1,338, 15 units of shared ownership, 42 of sheltered, and 15 of supported. Last year, obviously in a post-COVID world, like a lot of associations, we had a lot of work to do in just catching up with some of our delayed repairs, trying to re-engage with our people as well, who'd been working from home, and getting them back to a more hybrid way of working out in the field and working back in the office, but also just engaging with our communities as well. So we had lots of community cleanup days, and we're doing estate walkabouts, both in Bury, Haverhill, and around all of our patch. And continuing to work with local charities that we support through grant funding. We are kind of sort of midway through our corporate plan. We'll be doing some work with our board just to look at this again, because obviously we're living in a very turbulent economic times, but our clear objectives, being a great landlord, is number one, most important, putting tenants at the heart and centre of everything we do, and making sure we're delivering great services in buildings that are safe and secure. But we also recognise the need to develop new affordable homes. We are a top quartile provider of new affordable homes. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at every other housing association compared to the number of units we already own and manage, we're doing really well in terms of developing new affordable homes in and around Norfolk, Suffolk and East Cambs. We continue to invest very heavily in our existing homes and communities, a lot of work, as you would expect, around compliance and safety, but just our continuing our programs of kitchens, bathrooms, improvements, windows and doors, etc., because we're kind of coming around full cycle from our original promises. And then more latterly, we've done a lot of work in looking at climate change. Our average SAP rating is above average for our type of stock, which is a good starting place. We've worked with specialist consultants to have a look at all of our stock and see what would need to be done to get it to net zero carbon by 2050. Got an interim target to get to EPCC by 2030. The bill to get to net zero carbon is in the region of about 103 million. But at the moment, we've got about 68 million in our business plan, recognising that, you know, technology is going to change, prices may come down, we're not seeing sign of that yet, and that we might be able to obtain grant funding. In fact, we've got some bids in for the Social Decarbonisation Fund, and we hope to hear later this month. So doing a lot around climate change and investing in our stock. And the slight switch and having to do more of that has reduced overall the number of homes that we can deliver each year, but we still remain top quartile performer. And then obviously great services start with having a great team and great staff. So we're doing a lot of work to invest in our team and make sure we're providing a safe modern workplace where people can thrive and develop and grow our own. We've got a very large apprentice program that kicked off in the last couple of years, which will help see us through, particularly in and around the technicians, because as you might be aware, if you see our vans in and around the county, we do a lot of our own repairs. And then lastly, remaining a thriving business. I think we were very fortunate. We went to the markets last year to look at refinancing and raise substantial amounts of money at very good rates, which is fantastic because that underpins the climate change work we need to do, as well as continuing to build new homes. And I think very well, it's just good timing, really, that happened before the turbulence in the markets of this year. And then just lastly, some of our developments is Great Malneatham. And then we have a regeneration scheme we did here in the centre of Bury on the left, that's Hops Court. And then closer to you and closer to home, we have Boynton Meadows here in Haverhill on the right-hand side, which we took handover of last summer. So that was just a very quick canter through, just to give you an introduction. I know you're interested in looking at kind of planning and development, which is why I've got Scott here. And I'll stop sharing and I'll be happy to take, and Scott, I'll pass the difficult questions to him, the technical ones, but happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if it's just me, but I think the rest of the working party might want to know, what's the difference between social rented and affordable rented houses, please?
Okay, I'll start and then Scott can kick in. So typically for many years, a social rent was what you would commonly call a council house rent or a housing association rent. And then when David Cameron and George Osborne came along, they had this idea of housing associations charging a higher rent and using the increased income you got from that higher rent to invest in new homes, to place less reliance on grant funding. So that, Scott can chip, was that about 2016, something like that, 2015, 16, or slightly earlier?
It was slightly earlier, actually. It was in
Slightly
2010.
2010, oh my God, right, been too long.
Came in.
But in terms of cold hard cash, just from a tenant perspective, a social rent is about 65% of a market rent, whereas an affordable rent is an 80% of market rent. But other than that, they're by and large the same. I don't know if Scott might want to correct me or chip anything in on that.
No, it was absolutely correct. I think the only thing to add is that we voluntarily choose to cap our affordable rents at the local housing allowance rate, which is a rate that housing benefit recipients can receive in the private rented sector. And we do that because it's considered about as a proxy for affordability. We know that in some parts of the region where we operate, particularly more around Bury and where there's the influence of the United States Air Force bases, private rents can be skewed significantly quite high, and therefore an 80% rent of the open market could be unaffordable for some. So we choose to bring it down and would never charge above where the local housing allowance rate is, just for that purpose. But otherwise, Andrew's explained it better than I could.
Could you tell me what the local housing rent is in percentage terms? Because I've got the 60 and 80. So what are you are you doing 70% or instead of 80% or what?
It varies by house type, by the size, but generally I think it would probably, because Haverhill actually has quite a high local housing allowance rate because it sits within the broader Cambridge market. So in Haverhill, it's probably around closer to where 80% is.
Okay, right. Councillor Lismith? And then Councillor Burns?
Yeah. I notice obviously from your figures, your statistics, that we've got a lot of the old converted council houses that you took on. I think it's about 1,300 you had there in the region. With these that obviously are now owned by yourselves and they pay social rent to you, are these people still able to buy their council house as such, like they used to in the old days when people could buy their council house? Can they buy it off of you? Is that something they do?
So there's different models, but people that transferred back in the day, they have the preserved right to buy. People that have moved into housing associations more recently can do different types of right to acquire, or what's Scott can help me out. What's the terminology?
That's correct. Right to acquire.
Right to acquire.
And also on the newer developed properties that we're building for rent, there's a recent change that gives them the right to shared ownership as well. So they can buy a proportion of it that they could.
Yeah, I was just wondering when if that happens and you sell that property and you've got that funds coming in, does that go back into the pot as such to build new houses, or would you consider building new social housing to replace the one that you lost, or some that you might have lost?
Well, with some of the receipts, there is I think there's still a clawback. Is that correct, Andrew? On with the local authority, so we have to pay money back to the local authority on those. But we also have a modest disposal program as well, where we probably sell up to about 12 properties a year on average that aren't quite right for us anymore, and the receipts from the sale of them is all reinvested back into the delivery of new affordable homes.
So I'll come to Councillor Burns and then Councillor Dave Smith in a sec. So does that mean that you're not building any more social housing anymore?
Do you want me to step in, Andrew? And
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
When we build new homes, we build them via two routes effectively. One is we purchase off private developers. So you'll know about the Persimmon homes up at Boyton, which we've got. Now, the homes that we buy from Persimmon there, they are usually affordable rented homes, because it's what the local authority have negotiated with that particular developer as part of the Section 106 deal, that say 30% of them will be affordable, 2/3 of which will be for affordable rent, and 1/3 for shared ownership. And so they then auction those homes amongst the housing associations, and we purchase them in compliance, if we're the highest bidder, with that Section 106 agreement. And because the local authority have negotiated it, it tends to be for affordable rent rather than social rent. Where we undertake our own land-led developments, such as Boyton Meadows across the road, the scheme that Andrew showed a picture of earlier, we then have to attract government grant funding in order to subsidise and make sure that we produce a product at the end that is below the market rent. We've been incredibly successful recently in attracting grant to keep the rents as low as possible at social rent rather than affordable rent. And I would say of all our land-led developments over the last few years, probably 90% of them have attracted grant at a higher rate, which enables us to deliver them at social rent rather than affordable rent. But because our overall development programme and the numbers that we add is a mix of both of those, the ones that we do on land that we acquire ourselves or our own land where we get the government grant, and then the ones that we buy from private developers such as Persimmon and Taylor Wimpey, that means that there's probably a mixture of both affordable rent and social rent coming forward.
What percentage would you say then of each that's coming along?
Of new homes, it's probably around 60% affordable rent and 40% social rent. But as I say, the social rent is very dependent on us being able to attract higher levels of grant funding from the government in order to keep the rents lower. And at the moment, we have been successful, but I can't guarantee it will always be that way going into the future.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Scott. Nice to see you, Andrew. Nice to see you. Been a while, as it were. Something called COVID got in the way, I think. It's interesting. I hadn't realised you'd taken on some of the Persimmon site, because obviously phase one went to some obscure housing association which I'd never heard of, which were not local, and it actually caused us a lot of grief in terms of antisocial behaviour and various other things. So it's interesting about that. And going what Pat was just saying, Councillor Ann was saying about the social housing, I remember you and I having that discussion about when the government introduced those 1% rent reductions, how much of an effect overall it would have over the 5 years. I think someone mentioned about 11-12% drop in income, something like that, and it's sort of there. From my side of things, you know, as Andrew started off by saying, in 2001-2, the housing stock was transferred, and I had numerous conversations with Steve Cook at the time, about it. And my concern is, obviously, Haverhill correctly need to look after their tenants and leaseholders. I assume you've still got leaseholders. But where I have a problem with is everybody working together, such as grass cutting, such as somebody reporting a problem that, you know, not just yourselves, but West Suffolk and Suffolk County Council just fob people off all the time. And I've seen it numerous times personally, I'm sure others have, when nobody will take ownership of a problem, and if it's not their bit of land, pass it on to the people it is. With that in mind, it would be really good, and I'm surprised that West Suffolk haven't actually asked you. They may know this data, but we all have access as West Suffolk councillors to the mapping system, who shows who owns what, or who maintains what, I would say that. But the data for Haverhill is actually about 19 years old, because it goes back to when the housing stock was handed over, not what is actual today. And it also didn't really make clear about all those odd bits of land that Haverhill bought at the time. And I remember Steve Cook saying to me at the time, he said, we didn't even know we'd bought all this stuff, you know, obscure little bits of greenery here and there, which I guess you probably would prefer not to have taken on. But, you know, that's 20 odd years ago. So I'd really like something like that to work together. You know, we always have this problem about grass cutting. Oh, it's not our bit of grass there, you know, that sort of stuff. It seems to be needs to be joined up thinking over this, and it's not just yourselves, it's West Suffolk particularly acting on behalf of County Council. And what I'm sort of going towards is the existing communities out there who are not Haverhill tenants or leaseholders, who bought their houses. They might have bought them off the council, or may have just happened to be happy to live in an environment where people need to know who to go to. And that's a bone of contention all the time. I bet probably about 80% of my mailbox is down to people saying, who owns this bit of land? How can I do this? And I had the same problem with West Suffolk. I phone them up and they say, oh, not ours. Yeah, okay, we'll take ownership of the problem. I shouldn't be having to chase up all these people. So if you guys with West Suffolk and County, maybe to a lesser extent, could work together, it would be brilliant. I do have some problems, certainly here in Haverhill. I did make comment about 5 years ago about garages being used as storerooms by Haverhill, storing things like paint and things like that, which I wasn't happy about from a fire risk point of view. I believe that might still be the case. I was only told it was going to be for 12 months. That might be worthwhile investigating. But generally, I think Haverhill tenants I speak to generally are okay. They don't have a major problem, you know, criticism or anything like that. I think one thing that would be really good, certainly from Andrew's level, is to really emphasize what the tenants forum is about. Most of the people I speak to who are Haverhill tenants, never heard of them, don't know what they do, don't know that they're there as the conduit between yourselves and them as tenants or leaseholders. I think that'd be really handy to try and re-emphasize to all your tenants and leaseholders what they do. You know, I don't know if you still have these forum meetings at all, that I remember from 2004, 5, something like that. I've never been a Haverhill tenant. I facilitated things for them at the time. So slight criticism there, but generally, I don't think, you know, everybody sees it. It would be lovely if we had more social housing. Of course it would. But I fully understand what Scott was saying about, you know, funding, and, you know, you don't get out for now these days. So thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Quite a lot to unpack there. I think we might need to get you in, actually, because I think maybe some of your perceptions of us might be a little bit out of date. So just on GIS, we have full-time GIS mapper who's been at it for years. So all our stock and land parcels are highly digitized. And in fact, we're working very closely with the County Council on that. For all the problems you've perfectly described, we have the same frustrations. And I know it's easy to say one person should just grab it and do it, but people get very upset if you do that in other people's lands. So it is a problem, but we are working, and I know for a fact we're working with the county very closely on that. hoping to work with West Suffolk as well. So there's a lot happening with GIS. Tenants who use our My Havebury app on their telephone, if they see stuff that's been dumped or grass that needs cut, they can just take a picture of it, report it through, it picks up the coordinates. It's all very technical and modern, and then we're able to assess if it works. In terms of garages, a year, nearly 2 years ago, we retendered all our garage stores. So we work in a very modern way where we've got a little bit of a depot, but nothing like the depot we used to have. We don't store materials at all in the same way. We store some emergency stuff, but actually everything's delivered just on time to our technicians on their vans. So I know that we were storing stuff in garage some time ago, but my understanding that's stopped now. We've got a big program of renovating garages and getting those let. In terms of the Tenants Forum was disbanded over a year ago. We now have groups called Tenant Voices. There's at least 2 different tenant voice groups. One's a physical group, one's an online group. We now have a tenant experience committee because we have to respond to the social housing white paper and the changes in consumer regulation that are coming forward. So we've had a root and branch governance review that firmly places tenants at the heart of what we do, up to 3 tenants on our board, the tenant experience committee, a homes and investment committee, and they're all supported by the tenant voice. But actually, any form of tenant group is probably a slightly outdated concept these days, because actually what you're trying to do, because people don't want to come out, they don't want to come to a group particularly. So we use a variety of means. We've got an online platform where we can consult with tenants. We do postal surveys, we do telephone surveys every month. So if we're consulting on something, we might get feedback from 500-600 tenants, and then we'll maybe take the results of that to a focus group and talk to people there. But the days of people wanting to be in a tenants forum with a rigid kind of agenda in terms of reference and having to sign up for a year or so are kind of gone. But the tenant voice panels are a kind of evolution of that. So there's lots going on. That's all over our website. If people are not sure what's happening, you can point them in that direction. If you know of existing groups, we'd be happy to come and talk to them about it. So yeah, quite a lot going on. And you just talked about owners and where owners can go. That's a difficult one because that's a challenge for us. You know, as you know, on all our estates, people will have done the right to buy. Quite commonly, those are then let on the private rental market. It's difficult for us. You know, we have problems with some of those properties with fly tipping and got messy gardens and upkeep. As you know, we had a fire. There was a fire in Haverhill recently, which damaged 2 of our properties, and that was a private rented property in the middle. So, you know, we struggle with some of those issues as well because it's just difficult. We can't reach out to all those individual owners in a kind of collective way, and I think the people that are renting from some of those probably don't get the services they should. And I'll just end by saying thank you for your nice comments about not getting too much trouble. We were at West Suffolk the other week and we hear similar, you know, obviously we're very much focused on being in the communities of Haverhill and Bury St Edmunds. I can't comment, but other housing associations are available. But we're very proud to serve our communities.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Day-Smith.
Thank you. Yeah. First of all, say that I really detest the term affordable when it comes to housing, because that is a very subjective term. And what's affordable to one person is obviously not affordable to somebody else. I find it interesting that you say you've got 2 levels of rented accommodation, one affordable and one social. And that feels like you're creating like a 2-tier system between the residents. So can I ask you one question? Is if somebody then is in affordable renting, which you're saying is they pay more than the social renting, if they fall on hard times, does their rent then get reduced so that they become a social rent tenant? Is that the way it works?
Okay, and I don't wish to. I'm trying to put this politely. We don't choose these rent models. Okay, they're political. They're led by government. The government has set up and designed and invented. I don't like the term affordable. For many, many years, people talked about affordable housing as a broad brush term for social housing. Then, as I say, with David Cameron, George Osborne, it became a very specific product. We do not choose these. We work in a system and we deliver housing. And because we're regulated by the regulator for social housing, because we grant funding from Homes England, we have to follow the rules that are set. So this is not our choice, whether it's social or affordable. As Scott says, it depends. I think our default position at Havebury is we would always like to try and get enough grant funding that we can do social. So I just wanted to make that clear. It's not, we're not sitting here going, we want to charge affordable. I think our default position is social. In terms of if someone rents on an affordable rent and they struggle with that, we can't change that tenure, because that tenure is either defined by yourselves through your own planning department in terms of the Section 106 agreement, will specify whether it's affordable, social, shared ownership or whatever. So we can't just change that tenure. If people are struggling, another thing we do, particularly at the moment because of the economic crisis, is we have a very generous support fund of £250,000 a year, and we work super hard. I've got a fantastic team of income and welfare advisors who work with tenants to help them access welfare and support to keep them in their tenancies. And I think we're very successful at that. Our rent arrears are just a little bit over 2%, 2.01%. And I think that reflects that we're keeping people successfully in their tenancies, either by directly supporting them or pointing them in the direction of appropriate welfare.
So, yeah, to make clear, obviously it's not us as a town council that negotiates S106, it's West Suffolk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear that they ask for affordable rented accommodation rather than social. I think I'll be having words with them about that.
Right.
So you are, sorry, but you are building shared houses and things like that under the affordable term. So, well, I'm just wondering why you need to do that, because we've got lots of developers in the town that are building affordable shared housing or whatever. Perhaps your idea of what a housing partnership is different to what my idea and perhaps a lot of the residents would be, in that we would just assume that you would act like the previous council would have been as a supplier of housing, but you seem to be more going towards a business model. I mean, you say you're a thriving business, yet you say you're a community benefit society and not for profit. That just seems a little bit contradictory to me. Maybe it's my me being naive, but I think in the West Suffolk we probably need around about 50% of affordable housing. At the moment, we're asking for 30%, so it's not really meeting the need. So to have you building more stuff that's not rented, you know what I mean, is probably not the way that we would like to see it.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. Well, we are a business. We do need to meet all our covenants, and we do need to make sure we can invest in homes. So the books do need to balance. Shared ownership as a model is still directed at people in need. People need to be in housing need to access that model. And remember, housing need is a continuum. You know, it's not just all very, very poor and very rich people. There is everybody in between. So shared ownership as a product is something that people in housing need can access that maybe wouldn't be able to access even affordable or social rentals. So we like to see it on a sliding scale. But also, importantly, when we're looking at creating a community, we want to make sure it's a balanced community. So having a range of tenures in a development means that you get a more balanced community, that, you know, there's diversity in that community. So that's important for us. And frankly, sometimes we need to do that because there's a little bit of income that comes in from the first tranche sales that helps subsidize some of the social and affordable. So actually it enables us to do some of that other work as well. But I take your point. I know obviously you would rather we just built nothing but social. Maybe we might just rather do that as well, but we've got to try and make it all balanced and create diverse communities.
Which is one last quick one, Chair, is with the percentage of, like, our how do I put this? When a large development has to sort of build a certain amount of affordable houses, we say we would like them spread around the development, but our planners are telling us that you as a partnership would like them all clumped together. Is that correct? Because it's easier to manage. Is that right?
Scott will jump in there, I think.
There's an element of truth in that, yes. We like to have them clustered at times, particularly if there are flats on a Section 106 development. We would rather control the entry to all of our flats rather than to have them mixed. That's just a preference. We do find that makes for a more sustainable and a better community from a housing management point of view. And we do find it easier at times to have some of them clustered together rather than individually potted around. But we also really want to make sure that properties are what we call tenure blind as well on Section 106 developments. So it's not obvious which ones are the ones that are housing association properties just from looking at them. But yes, particularly when it comes to flats, there is an element where it makes it a much more straightforward management process to have control of all of the entrance to those flats. If I can as well, I'd just like to go back on the point we were talking about earlier, and you said you might take West Suffolk to task around the them negotiating Section 106s for affordable rent. We would. I think West Suffolk as well would rather see more social rent being delivered as well. But they are working in an environment as well when they're negotiating with developers. But you could have developers will quite often use a viability argument when there's the negotiation around Section 106 and say they can't afford to deliver what's being asked. And the concern is if they switch from affordable to social rent, they might only be able to negotiate a lower number of affordable homes rather than a higher number at affordable rent. So it's a balance for the local authority as well, the planners, when they are trying to negotiate Section 106s.
Yeah, I think yeah. So I think the percentage of affordable doesn't really rely on whether it's affordable rent or social rent as it is. It's a number of dwellings. So
yes, but the point I'm trying to make is that we are able to when they auction the private developers, when they auction the affordable homes to the highest bidder, if they've been stipulated as affordable rent, they get more of an income from those. They get a higher price for them than if they're social rent. So if the council were to, instead of insist that a third of the homes are social rent rather than affordable rent, then the developer might say, well, in which case I'm not able to afford to make the contribution towards the libraries or the education, whatever it may be, or we may not be able to afford to provide quite as many homes. So that's just the balance. But I'm just trying to sit in the local authority's planning shoes for once in my life as well, and understand that it's not all a bed of roses for them either. In terms, it's a very complex negotiation, and then that's also just to come back to the point you made as well about delivering shared ownership. And Andrew obviously makes a very compelling case that it meets a housing need for many people, but it's also, again, it's something that is insisted upon as part of the Section 106. So we actually don't necessarily get a choice. If we want to take the affordable homes, we take them as a package, and that comes with shared ownership properties as well, because it is something certainly the government has been pushing for the last 10 to 15 years or so, that kind of first steps into home ownership. So just a couple of extra bits I wanted to.
thanks very much.
Councillor Liz-Smith and then Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the shared ownership side of things. Obviously, if someone's buying, say, 50% share of the property, obviously they're going to mortgage the 50%. Mortgage rates are pretty bad at the moment. What about the rent side of things? So the rent they pay on that other 50%, do you try and make that affordable in a way, so that then it's not going to be like a market rent where they may actually be worse off? So how does that work?
So start with the new regime for shared ownership that's come in very recently means that people can actually come in at a much lower percentage if they want to, and can buy at around 10%. But we always try to make sure that across a scheme we broadly hit a balance, an average of around sort of 35 to 40%, because that just helps with the overall appraisal for a development. And it also makes for a more balanced, sustainable community. On the rent, it's a formula that is charged, and we have discretion to charge between 2.75 and 3% of the unsold equity as a rent. We choose to go in at the lower amount at 2.75 rather than up to the maximum of 3%. But that does work out relatively cheap, but obviously it varies depending on how much unsold equity there is left in the property as to what it can be. But it's nowhere near a market rent. And what we tend to find, even with the recent increases in mortgage rates, that the overall amount that people are paying is less than they would if they were either in the private rented sector or owned for property outright when you combine the mortgage and that rental income.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown, then Councillor Burns.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Scott and Andrew for coming along. Anyway, is it easier for you to buy properties at auction from, say, Persimmon or Red Row or whatever than develop new houses yourself? You don't seem to have developed that many in Haverhill over the last few years. Just wondered if that was your sort of new business model.
Simple answer is yes, it is easier. It carries less risk, but there are pros and cons to both. You relinquish control over design, you relinquish control over the timing of the delivery. But obviously, if you do your own land-led, the biggest challenge at the moment is the overall viability of it. I mean, it comes no surprise to you. The biggest challenge we face around development at the moment is around making it all stack up with where build costs have gone over the last 12 months. And they really have just flown away, really. So it makes it very, very difficult. But the government is listening, and the government is thinking about grant rates and needing to increase them. Where our overall programme sits is probably, and I think I said this earlier, it's probably about 60% Section 106 and 40% of our own land-led development. But as I say, it's very challenging. We have, I mean, one of our largest land-led developments of recent years actually did complete in Haverhill, which was last year, which was Boyton Meadows. But the only reason we were able to get that to work is that we worked in what we call a package deal with a local contractor to deliver it and work very closely with them. We do find it challenging when we go out and try to buy land on the open market to compete with other builders and other developers. We then find the planning process can take at least a year, often longer, to get through that process. And we find it difficult as well to get that kind of local support for affordable housing. You know, everybody is aware that development tends to come with a lot of objections generally, and it is difficult to get that support. And then we have the challenges once we're there of all the statutory consultees and getting things like pre-commencement conditions discharged to allow our contractors to get on and get started. So it is very challenging, but we have a real commitment to land-led at Havebury. Many housing associations, particularly over the last few years, who have gone on what they would call their growth journeys, where they've been trying to build and expand, have done it 90% through acquisition of developer stock, where we have been really solid about saying we do want to grow and we've got the financial capacity to do it, but we also want to try and do our own development as much as possible. And we're really proud of those developments. Boyton Meadows, we think, is a real success, and we kind of love the design of Saxon Crescent as it goes through. We sometimes joke about it looking a bit like Bath, our own Bath in Haverhill. We think it's fantastic. But they're really difficult to do, and they seem to get harder and harder to do, if I'm being brutally honest. But we're committed to carrying on and trying to hold that percentage. I'd love it to be closer to 50-50, if I'm being honest. But the opportunities out there are few and far between that we can make financially work and deliver in a reasonable timescale. The other thing is, because we are dependent on that grant funding as well and bidding we have to bid competitively to the awarded grant. Then the government, when it's awarding it, wants to know that you're going to deliver something reasonably quickly as well. So we have, when often a land-led development probably has 3-4 years before we actually start to see something happening. So the quicker we can get through that, the more likely we'll get a decent track record and reputation with Homes England, who provide us with the grant funding. Sorry, Councillor Brown, that's a bit of a a bit of a passionate speech.
That's such a sore point there, but anyway, thanks very much, Scott. It's a very fulsome answer. So yeah, at least we understand where you're coming from. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, thanks for come back. Yeah, it's interesting about Boyton Meadows because, of course, it was only supposed to be the 30% affordable, and then it came with a bit of a surprise to everyone to see Haverhill's sign go out the side. And maybe Haverhill at the time should have come to us and said, "Look, this is what I plan to do," and we said, "Great, that's what we need: more affordable," and I use the word loosely, housing rather than private housing stock, which was good. With that in mind, and just very quickly going back to what Andrew was saying earlier on, yes, thank you. I mean, the tenants' voice I had heard of, but I hadn't realised it replaced the forum. I thought it was something completely separate because there was nothing. I don't think that, and I haven't checked again. I'm quickly reading, but I've not read it. Things like that, and also the mapping system. Yeah, I understand your system's up to date, but West Suffolk is not. So when I look at something and someone says to me, "Who owns that bit of land?" I say, "Oh, it's Haverhill," and Haverhill said, "No, we got rid of that. That's not ours anymore. That house is not ours anymore," or whatever. So that's the reason for saying that. Interesting on the my question actually was going to be about what plans for Haverhill, but of course, as you just said, you bought whatever part of Persimmon you've got. I guess phase 2, what we're calling phase 2. We've also got phase 8 of the Redrose site off Chalkstone Way, which is going to be about 80 to 90 affordable houses, and they've told us they're going to be building those right up to completion, even if they don't sell the private stock, because what you were sort of saying, Scott, materials are very expensive, and also the labour is very difficult to get hold of as well. So I think they want to complete that. So it would be nice if when you do your bidding, you manage to get it. I don't know who else will be trying to get it, of course. It was a little bit of a shame that West Suffolk, when they built the 2 Barley Homes sites, allocated them to some place in Cambridge, can't remember the name of it, which would have been good that our local thing do. But I suppose what I was going to ask is, apart from those bidding for those sites, and hopefully you get in early enough that you can influence design, whatever it might be, solar panels or whatever, have you got any fundamental plans for Haverhill that you're allowed to divulge?
In terms of our land-led development, are you talking
yes.
about? Yes.
Yes.
Do ourselves? We don't have anything which is firm in the pipeline at the moment, okay. But that's not unusual for us. We do exist a little bit hand to mouth when it comes to development opportunities for land-led. What I'd like to ask is, if you are aware of sites that are out there in your area that are perhaps stalled, don't seem to be coming forward for whatever reason, or you think would make an ideal affordable housing scheme, please, we're always open to hearing and being given leads, etc., so that we can chase them down. Obviously, we have our own network out there, and we speak to agents, and we have contacts with landowners, and particularly the public sector landowners that are out there and are always trying to follow down leads. And we work closely with kind of the small, what we call the SME, the small and medium sized contractors who operate in our area, who often want somebody to partner with to deliver something, and that's how Boyton Meadows came about. But always happy to hear of any leads or anything that any local interested parties may have for development.
Yeah, I think one of the problems there, Scott, if I'll come back very quickly, is that obviously we got best part of 4,000 houses being built in Haverhill, bringing our population up by nearly 30%. And unless you're willing, in fact, unless Haverhill's got millions and millions of pounds to spend on infrastructure, I would perhaps suggest that what we've got on the new developments, Persimmon and Redrow, and also what's been built recently with the Taylor Wimpey and the Barley Homes and all that sort of stuff, I suspect that we probably got enough housing stock requirements, both affordable and private, primarily because there's no jobs here. People have to commute to get to jobs. So from a sustainability point of view, it's pretty poor, particularly on the northern part of the town. You know, we still don't have any decent bus services or anything like that. Obviously don't have a railway. So that's a big problem for us. There are little tracts of land. We've just been doing the local plan, which has come to a grinding halt for a little while. And there was certain places identified, but West Suffolk and you, I guess, are talking about those anyway. So I'll leave those with you. Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, just one quick one. Scott, if you could do something with the Vixen pub site in Strasbourg Square, you'd be our heroes forever.
Well, we've looked at, I mean, we've been looking at the Vixen pub, which has stood empty for years and years, hasn't it? And we're, unfortunately, we're not able to get anywhere near it in terms of the viability to make it work, because as you can appreciate, it won't take that many units on that particular site. But then the commensurate land value that comes with acquiring that for what it's being asked for makes it unviable for us. If we could, we would, and we regularly revisit it and think, can we make this work? But unfortunately, it doesn't.
Yeah, if I could interrupt, because I've been heavily involved in this one. You know, this land is currently up for 950 grand, which was 1.1 million. The guys bought it for just over 300,000 with planning permission. We don't think it's actually now got planning permission, despite West Suffolk are now backtracking on it. And you're dead right, Scott. Day one, when it was bought by the funeral directors and then Radford Homes bought it, I said to Radford Homes, knock it down, build something decent there with decent sized rooms and everything. Don't try and convert it. But at £900,000, you know, the land value is, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't make any profit at all on it. Ridiculous amount of money. It really wants knocking down now, and then worry about what we can put on it afterwards. That's my view, and I keep telling the planners about it. They're having the big problem is that the owner's not willing to talk. That's the big problem. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. I just want to last question really from me. I don't think anyone else wants to speak. This is to Andrew, really. I've been on the internet, and it says here the average social rent in Haverhill is £424 a month. Could you sort of let me know what the social rent is for Haverbury for a 3-bedroom house?
Not off the top of my head, I couldn't, but we can send that information back to you. But if you're pulling that, we're the biggest social landlord, so that it's probably there or thereabouts, but we can drop you a note and confirm that for a 3-bed.
Yeah. And just for information purposes as well, the average private rent in Haverhill for a 3-bedroom is £1,099 per calendar month. And a 2-bedroom is £925 per calendar month. Now that is enormous, absolutely enormous for a town like Haverhill. Yes, we do have commuters that go to Cambridge and do get a pretty good pay, but a lot of people that work in Haverhill, and we still got a lot of factories and warehouses and what have you, don't get anywhere near that sort of money that they could afford that private rent. So we really rely on social housing in Haverhill. These people that are in sort of social housing on Persimmons, for instance, you know, they might want to sort of go to a 3-bedroom or something like that themselves. So, you know, they're on social rent. So it's there is a need in Haverhill for social rents. It really is a big need. Just to bear that in mind, and please, if you can, sort of let me have information on the social rent for Haverbury, please.
Okay, it will vary from property to property. So I'll give you. I just tried to have a quick look on the system there, but there's too many. I'll try and construct an average for you. And I'd just like to end by saying, I think we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. You know, our preference is to do as much social, but hopefully we've given you a flavour of the restrictions we work in. We don't have absolute freedoms where this is concerned. You know, we're working with planning, and Scott's been very nice to West Suffolk Planning, which is quite right, absolutely right. They're working in constrictions as well. So it's a whole kind of ecosystem, isn't it? But we're absolutely with you. We would love to do more social housing. We would love to do more sites in Haverhill, some of our small sites as well. So yeah, it's not a lack of desire to do it. It's just finding a way through this complex system that we all have to work in. But we can only do it with your support.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott, and thank you very much, Andrew, especially.
Thank you very much.
And it's a really good meeting. Thank you very much, and good
Nice to see you all. Have a good meeting.
Thanks,
you.
both.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Right, back to the agenda. Item 7, West Suffolk District Council delivery of affordable rural housing across West Suffolk. To consider responses to this questionnaire, circulated prior to the meeting. Is there any comments at all on this? I'll say just before I come to Councillor Dave Smith, I did fill in this particular form personally as well myself. Don't know if anybody else did. I was moaning about social housing, I must admit. Councillor Dave Smith?
It seemed to me that it's more aimed at the parish council, town councils, rather than individuals. So I didn't fill it in. And again, it is primarily aimed at rural. Do we consider ourselves rural, semi-rural, urban, or what? I mean, is this survey really relevant to us as a town? I mean, yeah, we'd like to see more social housing within the West Suffolk as a whole, but how relevant was it to us?
Well, it was a bit, I must admit, there was a load on there about that could insinuate villages and what have you, parish councils. But we're not an urban town council, are we? You know, we're part of West Suffolk, which is rural, isn't it? So that's my gist of it. I don't know about what the rest of the working party thinks of that. Is there anyone want to comment at all on this? I don't think there's. Liz Smith, Councillor Liz Smith.
I wasn't too clear. Are we going to respond to this as a group, or are we going to do it individually?
No, as a group.
As a group, okay.
Yeah, this is what it says on the agenda. You know, it's what we say as a working party on it.
Okay, that's fine. So are we going to go through the questions, or?
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
I don't think. Can you get that up, Vicky? Could you? Because it's a link, isn't it? You know, you sort of have to go on it. So
yeah, you have to go on the link.
Yeah.
I don't think we could do it tonight.
No.
Yeah. Is there an end date of it?
I'll have a look.
You know, the
12th of February.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's out, isn't it? When's our next meeting?
The 13th.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, that's out. We're finished. So, well,
14th, sorry, 14th.
So it seems like we don't want to comment on it then. Councillor Burns.
I did fill it in last week, whenever it was that Vicky sent the stuff out, but I felt it very much as if it was not even geared towards parish and town councils to a certain extent, because it was all about you know, what have you done to ensure you've got affordable housing in your town and all this sort of stuff? Well, of course, as Andrew just mentioned, S106 or SIL, which would be much better, of course. I wasn't really sure what the purpose of this was, unless somebody else has got a better idea. And also, I wasn't certain who had actually developed this form, whether it was actually a West Suffolk thing or somebody else. I think it's probably outside West Suffolk, because it talks about Lavenham and places like that. So I was interested to see who's using this data. Does anyone know?
Yeah, I've got no idea. Vicky,
Well,
have you got any idea?
Colin, anything to your knowledge of Salk or?
Colin, is it so? Do you reckon?
No, I'm not really sure on this one at all, to be perfectly honest.
Right, okay. Well, I don't think anyone's enthused over this, so we'll just leave it as that, really. Okay. Right, we go on to the item 8, which is West Suffolk District Council Tree Preservation Order, TPO 033 brackets 2022. To note, tree preservation order, which has been circulated prior to the meeting. Is it noted? Is there any comments? No comments? Right, noted then. Thank you. Item 10, to consider planning applications to West Suffolk, which takes me up, as there's no members of the public. Is that right, Colin? I'll go on straight on to item 11, which is the planning applications. Bear with me. Which is application 1, DC 22-1925 OUT. Oh, sorry, goodbye. Councillor Brown. Okay, Colin, you done him, yeah? Are you okay? Is he gone? And Mayor, yes, as well. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Davison, yeah. Okay, this is application 1, which is DC 22-1925 OUT, outline planning application, all matters reserved, 1 dwelling, and this is Mr. Adrian Collingwood, land near Beechwood, Albany House, Hill Crescent. Right, okay, is there any comments on this one at all? Councillor Dave Smith?
Only thing that has been picked up by one of the residents of it, the application form seems a bit confusing because it describes it as a 2-storey garage with a lean-to garage on the actual application form itself. So does that render that, I don't know, not illegal, what's the word I'm looking for? Invalid as an application, I don't know. Because it's not actually describing what it's meaning to do.
Yeah, it does say that, but when you look on the plans, it's a 4-bedroom house with garage.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I've always said the words of the words, you know.
Yeah, yeah, which is confusing because people think it's a 2-storey garage being built. It's not. It says that outline planning consent granted but run out on the 5th of June 2022, and this is a renew consent for that. So to be honest, I don't know if we if we granted it then at that particular time. I don't really know. But I don't think they put the application in, maybe. I don't know, but it says application outline planning consent was granted. So we must have, I don't know if we objected to it or what. Vicky, have you any idea?
I can look.
Okay, if you can, please. It will give us some idea of what we said. Councillor Burns, while you're looking, then Councillor Stitchcombe.
Planning consent was granted for a 3-bedroom bungalow in 2006, but it expired in 2009. So what they've asked to do is basically give outline permission for an alternative scheme, which is this big 2-storey house now, obviously with a new frontage onto Ratting Road, which highways have commented on, although they just want a load of conditions, I think, cited on it. The principle of development was established in 2006. So there's very little you can object to other than the fact, and of course it is only outlined, so they're not asking for detail. Although back in 2006, that was actually, I believe, was a detailed, it was reserved matters, it wasn't an outline. So you could argue that it's, have you found it? What's this one?
I found one from 2019, outline planning application for 1 dwelling, Beechwood and Albany House. We had no objection.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same one, Vicky. There's another one that went up the back there. I mean, the design and access statement.
It says Beechwood, Councillor Burns, on it, which is on this application.
Yeah, land to the rear of Beechwood.
That's it. Yeah, Beechwood and Albany House is the same description.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, but is it?
But the actual, if you look at the planning history on the design and access statement, it actually said about the 2006 planning.
Chair, the decision notice for the application that Vicky's referring to was for 3 years from that date in middle of 2019. So that would expire in June 22. We emailed in a message to the Town Council of no objection, but would ask the application include vehicle fast charging points and super fast broadband.
That's right.
Okay.
Councillor
Stitchcombe.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that I think it might be a bit churlish to object about the fact that the heading of the application doesn't really seem to match the content of it, but it's something we could perfectly well comment on as a nonsense that needs rectifying before it goes much further. Thank you.
Okay. Are we all agreed? Councillor Lidsmith?
I was just going to say, I think on the basis that we had no objection previously, that we do that again. I'm just going to propose that we're neutral on this one.
Okay. Can I have a seconder for that then, please? Councillor Stitchcombe. All those in favour, please show. Carried. Thank you. Application 2, which is DC. Can we have the other 2 in, please, Colin? Sorry.
Yeah, they're on their way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Councillor Brown, you there as well? Yeah. Yep. Right. Okay. Right. Application 2, which is DC 23 0001 HH Garage Loft conversion. And this is Mr. Matthew Goody, 15 Woodcock Close. Is there any comments on this one? Councillor Dave Smith?
I've got to say something. I'm just confused by the dimensions of the actual loft conversion they're proposing, because it seems it's a wedge shape. I mean, Councillor Burns will know more about this. They'll know more about those houses, but I'm struggling to see in my head how that will work as a room for a person, let alone an adult. The way it narrows down into like a wedge shape towards the window they're proposing there. So I don't know if Councillor Burns can sort of has any more insight into these buildings.
Councillor Burns?
Yeah, I got a friend of mine who lives in Roseridge Close, who has done exactly the same thing years ago for their very young son. Who it was more like I'm going to call it a play den rather than what they did sleep there, and it was a triangular wedge shape. Because I had to look closely because I was a bit worried that they'd wanted to do something with the garage as well. Because although parking in theory shouldn't be an issue, it could have been an issue. I can't see how it can be used as a bedroom personally, because your feet are going to be touching the roof space as far as I could see. If they said we're going to convert the whole garage, including that bit, then it makes more sense. But yeah, it didn't seem right to me.
Yeah, and also I noticed that'd be a 4-bedroom, and there's only 2 car parking spaces there. You've got a garden and everything on the front, looking at Google Earth.
Well, you've actually got 2 spaces on the driveway plus the garage.
No, there's only enough for one in front of the garage.
You can get 2 cars on there in the front of that. Yeah.
No.
Just.
No way. I lived there. I lived in Turnclose. You can only get 1 car on there.
Oh.
And that was years ago, and the cars are smaller in front of the garage. So I don't know where you got that. They do park there because they convert their front garden. If you look on Google Earth, you'll see that people put chunks out their front garden.
I've been around there.
And put it there and put the other car there. They can only get 1 on the outside of the garage. They can get 1 in the garage and 1 on the outside of the garage. They can't get 2 on that. There's no way can they get 2.
You can park alongside the garage.
Yes, that's what I was saying, but they haven't. This particular house is got a front garden. It's just enough for 2 cars. They can't get. That's what I'm saying. That the other people have taken a chunk out of their front garden and sort of parked them long ways onto one of them onto the front garden. So they've got 2 cars at the front and 1 in the garage. But this particular one has only got enough room for 1 car in the garage and 1 car on the drive. I don't know if you get Google Earth up, Vicky, just to prove my point.
Do you want me to get Google Earth up?
Yes, please. Yeah. Councillor Liz Smith?
I was just going to say, regardless of the parking issue, I don't think this bedroom you could count as a bedroom. The dimensions of it with the space, the headspace, is not going to be enough, I wouldn't have thought. What's this? Is this supposed to be it?
That's something important.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's not really a full bedroom that I can see. So, if it was like a den or something like Councillor Burns was saying earlier, then yeah, but I don't think we could agree to it as a full bedroom. So the parking spaces becomes pointless, really.
This is what.
Yeah, there's a bit that I was saying. with the chunk they take, but that's not their house. This is,
I just put Woodcote Close in. I didn't put the number.
oh, can you put the number up, please, Vicky? Because I don't.
It's down the hill on the right, Vicky.
I think it's like the
Sorry?
white garage
Down the
door.
hill on the right.
With the white garage door.
Tell me
look,
when to
there's
start.
There's a lot. What number is it?
15.
15, right?
Yeah, but Google's numbers aren't always accurate. We need the
Ah.
West Suffolk.
Oh,
We need the West Suffolk plan to be
that
absolutely
bin
sure
there?
which house.
I think it looks like that one with the trees here, but I'm not sure. Can you have a look at can you get a close up of it and look at that bin? I don't think it's got a number on though.
Oh, sorry. It's no. Sorry. Go right, Vicky.
Yeah,
Right it's
where
right
the
up the
blue
top
bin
where
is.
you were.
where the blue bin is.
No, it's right up the top.
Oh, it's up top. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
It's where that it's the one with the pink garage door.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's I thought it was right. Yeah, because that front garden's got a tree there. So, yeah, so you can definitely only get one on there if you look at the car on the left. See, and that's what they've done. They've either sort of got rid of their front garden, or they've taken chunks out. Like if you look on the right, to get that extra car in, they haven't done that.
Can I come back, Chair?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. Yeah, if you want to take that down, Vicky, I'll just quickly share this because this is what I was looking at the other day. This is the road next. Oh, not that one. Sorry. Oh, come on, where is it? Why have I lost the? Can you see my desktop?
No, this is
Right.
this is what Vicky had.
Yeah, no, this is not. Sorry, bear with, because sorry, it's gone for another screen. Sorry, that's what I was doing. This is actually the road next door. This is Rosefinch. Identical houses, but have you noticed they've got Velux windows in the roof space there above the garage? Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. So they've had permission then.
Well, I suspect not. I suspect that is not permissioned.
Yeah, the picture I've put in the chat is that house. It's that room.
So say again. Oh, here we go.
Picture in the chat.
Oh, is that the same one? Is it?
Yes, that's that house you were just showing, John.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But I don't know whether that's got permission or not. I'd have to look back. But that's just an example. Sorry, that's just an example, Chair. I was just showing you that other people have done it.
Okay.
And that link that's on there.
And that's without the extra space as well, wasn't it? Do you notice that extra parking space? So that's only got space for 2 cars, isn't it? That one.
Yeah, but is it worthwhile sharing just for the benefit of the live stream what that house in Rosefinch is looking like? The picture that Aaron has.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If we go back to that.
Let me share that. There you go. Can you see that?
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, that's. I don't know. You
I thought,
can't tell,
yeah.
can you?
Yeah, no, difficult.
It is
There
difficult.
was a bouncy
Where's the
thing
bed?
there.
Where's the bed? It looks like it's a playroom, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's no bed there.
But yeah,
So he's got permission for a playroom and not a bedroom.
I suspect he didn't have permission, but that's, that would have to look up planning application.
And that's why he's only got 2 parking spaces, because it's not a bedroom. So I think the road we can go down then, that it should only be a playroom and not a bedroom, because of the parking spaces and because of the size of the room. Has anyone got any objection to that? Councillor Dave Smith?
Is that something we can actually stipulate? I mean, so call a room what they like, can't they? So you know, it's difficult. I don't like it, but I don't think we can really object to it. So I would probably say neutral with a comment that you know, and leave it to the West Suffolk to make a decision.
Well, couldn't we say that looking at other houses in the past or conversions in the past, that they had playrooms?
Chair,
I'm shaking his head and one's nodding, so I don't know where we're going on this, to be honest.
Chair, just a reminder, we need to consider our consultation response to the application in front of us, not start renaming rooms, etc.
Right. Right, okay then. So, well, let's have a proposal then. Can I have a proposal? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I propose neutral.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second for neutral then, please? Councillor Liz Smith, I saw first. All those in favour, please show. Yeah, it's carried. Right, next one is application 3, which is a substation on the POS/LEAP area to west of phase 6. And this is Persimmon Homes, land northwest of Haverhill. Any comments on this one? No? Can I have a proposal for neutral then, please? Councillor Davison, and second by Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Okay. Thank you. Carried. Application 4, which is DC 230091, ADV, 1 non-illuminated fascia sign. And this is Mr. Marcus Hunt through whatever you say it, Outdoor Limited, Haverhill Business Park, Unit 6, Trade Centre. Any comments on this one? No? Councillor Burns.
Nothing adverse. I was just a little bit surprised they actually put a quotation for the cost of the advertising sign online for £11,400. My only concern, and I'm going to take this up with West Suffolk, is we seem to be having a lot of occupations of these new business park units, but half the outline permission things have not been fulfilled, which specifically stated that they couldn't be occupied until they have been done, such as the footpath all the way down to Hollands Road on Bumstead Road has not been done. So I'm going to talk to West Suffolk about that. Obviously, these people probably don't know anything about it, but it's the owner of the land that seems to have negated their responsibilities to the area. I don't know whether Tate's, I think Tate's moved in as well, who are the big ones. So there's quite a lot of outline permission things that were supposed to have been done, have not been done yet. So I'm going to bring that up. Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, yeah. Cheers for that, John. That's important because the amount of people I've seen walking in that road lately in the dark with dark clothing on, it's absolutely scary. Yeah. So yeah, cheers for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Did I have a proposal for neutral on this? Councillor Davison and seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Right, thank you. Carried. Item 12 now, which is matters to report. Is there any matters to report by anyone?
Nothing new, Chair. All the same stuff.
Yeah, we got your report. Thank you very much. Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tonight. And the item 13, which is date of next meeting, which is the 14th of February.